I'm Runeyi, and I studied the MPhil in Development Finance. But I think the most transformative part of the experience for me was probably how I approach development. I think coming into the program, my approach was always, what are the things that need to be done? Didn't really have a lot of context, right? Almost idealistic in a sense, that this is the problem, this is what we need to do to fix it. And I think with the program, the transformation for me was realizing that context is important, right? In the real world, there are constraints. Resources are limited. The political realities also make a difference. Infrastructure is an issue. So there's a lot of things that you actually need to consider. So for me, it was, I'd almost say, moving development away from being this theoretical thing and making it real. What is the solution that's required in this specific context? That for me was probably the most transformational, because then I think a lot of the solutions I come up with are a lot more practical, really, because they take into account what is the reality in this country, in this situation, and therefore what do we need to do. My view on leadership I would say it's less of an evolution for me, but more of a refinement in a sense. I remember sitting in a class, I think it was economic diplomacy, and the penny dropped a little bit, right? Because again, I think the way that I thought about leadership was more, how do I get all of these people to just do what they need to do, right? How do I rally them around this one big thing that we need to deliver? But the realization that actually it's more about aligning people in a certain direction. And these are people who ordinarily would not agree because they have different incentives, right? So when you think about development, this is across different sectors. You've got your government institutions, you've got the public sector, private sector. Everyone has their own interests. They're solving for very different things. And leadership is more about aligning those people in one direction and moving things forward, rather than saying, okay, guys, this is what we need to do. I think in terms of new ways of thinking that had the biggest impact, I would say it's systems thinking, right? Again, things don't happen in isolation. So rather than trying to solve this problem, because this is where it's cropped up, it's taking a step back and realizing that all of these things exist within a system, right? Whether I'm trying to solve for SME financing, or is it climate financing, infrastructure, whatever it is really, right? There's a whole system that this lives within. And I think for me, that was probably the biggest shift that I had to make. So rather than trying to find isolated fixes to the problem, rather, how do you change something that's going to move the entire system? Because that's where you start to see the real impact. So I think the program has definitely opened up, I'd almost say, a whole new world for me. Because if I look at Tina before the program and Tina now, I would say for me, that ability to now translate between the financial, the policy, especially the policy, I think that's the part that I felt was fundamentally lacking when I looked at my experience. But now that ability to hold conversations at the highest level, right? I can sit in a room with a minister, a head of state, etc., and I'm able to translate all of these things and communicate in a way that actually makes sense. I think for me, that's probably been the biggest unlock. I think I chose Stellenbosch Business School particularly because I think Stellenbosch sits at the intersection between, robust academic rigor and also an understanding of real world problems, right? And I think for me, that's what was lacking when I looked at other programs that I potentially could have pursued. The focus on Africa specifically was super, super important for me. And the additional focus on other developing markets outside of Africa. So that perspective for me was very important. And ultimately, that's why I came here. Just that ability to provide a high quality, globally recognized program that is also alive to the challenges and issues that we're facing on the continent. So I would tell someone who's joining the program to come with an open mind, right? Come expecting your beliefs and your opinions to be challenged. I would also say be open to engaging beyond the classroom. Because I found that for me personally, a lot of the learning actually happened in the side conversations that happened outside of the classroom when you're standing in line to grab a cup of coffee, in your group discussions, those late nights where everyone is extremely tired and just wants to go home, but we have to push. So just that willingness to open yourself up to different experiences, different perspectives, because there's people who are coming from all over. So I would definitely say be open. Also, don't come here thinking you have all of the answers. Rather, come with really good questions. To students who are considering joining the program, I would say you need to be very clear on your why. Why do you want to do this, right? Because it's going to be a tough and challenging journey. You're probably going to want to quit at some point. But I think if you're very clear on why you want to do this, then it makes it, I'd say, easier to push through, right? And challenge yourself. I would also say invest in speaking to people. Reach out to people who have done the program. Ask them questions, right? I found the people to be very open, very willing to talk. So reach out to people who've been here. Do your due diligence. Reach out to the lecturers. They are also very friendly, always willing to, listen, talk, help you problem solve, whatever. So I would say just make sure you invest the time into doing all of that upfront work so that when you get here, you're actually prepared and you know what's ahead of you. Professionally, I'm in an in-between phase. So a lot of it is really trying to do my own thing, right? And figuring out what that's actually going to look like in the advisory space. And I think the program actually contributed to that in the sense that there was a lot of emphasis on how do we, create more jobs as Africans, right? We all know our countries have a crisis of unemployment. So how do we create more jobs? So that's something I'm pursuing or, trying to dabble in a little bit. But also doing some work in the healthcare space, which was also ignited by, a lot of the discussions that we had in class. This is a fundamental human right. We know it's a crisis in a lot of African countries. I mean, we don't have to look far in our own country. It's a fundamental human right that a lot of people don't have access to. And when they do have access to health, it's not great quality. So some of the work that I'm doing now is around how do we, make quality healthcare available to the ordinary South African on the street. What impact did I unlock through the program? I think for me it was actually very simple, really, but I think it was the realization that, development in our country, on the continent, is in our hands. It's not this ghost that's in the shadows that, someone's gonna come or these people are supposed to be doing these things and they're not doing it. But we're actually the ones who are sitting in the rooms where decisions are made about where capital is going to flow, right? And just that realization that the power is actually in my hands. I'm sitting in those rooms. I have the responsibility to ensure that capital is flowing in the right direction, right? that how we think about development is a lot more inclusive. It's not just about, oh, we're going to grow the economy and the economy is going to make lots of money, but how do we make sure that people's lives are better for it? That for me, I think, was the important thing. It's in my hands. I need to do something. No one's going to swoop in and save us. We need to do it.